Hi, Benji. Hold on, let me see. Okay, I should be able to hear you. Can you hear me? Oh no, it's frozen.
Yeah, hi Eric. I didn't notice
Hi,
I had
Benji.
entered the meeting, the mic off.
No worries. How are you?
How's it going? Doing well here.
Good.
I'm sorry that I insisted about bringing Margaret meeting, and now she had a stomach ache, so she couldn't attend.
Oh, no worries.
Yeah.
Hopefully she's okay.
So what's up for you? Did you do this last week or the last 2 weeks?
Oh, we have a good group here, like 7 folks. Let me let them
Nice.
in. I did.
Yeah, sure.
Hi, Jason.
Hey guys. Hello, Eric.
Hey, nice to see you all.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining, Regina, Monica.
Hi.
Sorry, can you hear me munching? I'm sorry. I haven't had lunch.
Keep it casual. I think it gives a nice touch, actually.
All right, awesome. Well, thanks for joining. My name's Eric. I do this once a week. I try to do it once a week. Been doing it now for over a year. I started with the Never Search Alone community over a year ago and moderated 2 job search councils. I've been recruiting since 2013 and mostly for venture-backed tech startups. And prior to that, I was in product management and had software development and consulting. So I've had a bit of a eclectic background, but really not much of a format here other than just casual conversation and ask me anything. Happy to give you my perspective as a recruiter. And hopefully it could, it can help you navigate your job search. Yeah. For interesting conversation at the minimum. Sorry, trying to get my camera right. So anyway, happy to address any questions you guys might, any topics or questions you guys might want to explore.
I just had a quick housekeeping thing. I never got the onlinequestions.org page to load with the code you sent out.
You never got what to load?
The this onlinequestions.org site. It was supposed to put in an event number.
Oh, geez, I'm sorry. That was something I kind of just organically sunsetted without updating the thing.
Cool. So it wasn't me. That's good to know.
It's not you. There was a time when I was actively like really promoting this, and there were times when we had just way too many people, and I had to use something like that to kind of triage the questions.
No doubt.
You guys are fortunate. You guys, it's just a small group. We're a relatively small and intimate group.
What's the most common question you get during your coffee chats with folks?
A lot of questions around how to network.
Sure.
A lot of questions on how to network and just how to focus. It's not really asked like this, but how to focus energy. Because I think the job search is one where you're, building this motion to kind of, you're doing a lot of research, you're trying to channel your energy, and there's a lot of, there's a lot of sparkly things out there that can get your attention. You see something on Twitter or X or, in some of the channels on the Slack community and the Never Search Alone group, and it becomes this shiny thing that people start chasing. And what I've seen a lot happen is that there's a sort of a time horizon, and sometimes people don't know what's working versus not working because they haven't done it long enough. And I don't have an answer to all those questions, right? I think there's a principled approach that one should kind of take, and I think it has to do with building relationships, building focused relationships, being consistent about your messaging, being explicit about your asks. I know sometimes I have a hard time with that, and the question is, how do you marshal somebody that really wants to help you? How do you tee them up for success to help you? Because if you're super vague and they don't know how to help you, it's not clear. Like, what's the one thing, that one person that you meet today or whenever, what's the one thing that they can do like right now that would help you? And a lot of times people have trouble, myself included, articulating that, right? But yeah, I guess it's sort of the shiny objects that people chase. I think if you take an iterative approach and you're realistic about the time horizon where you would actually start to be able to separate real signal from the noise as far as whether you're getting traction. I think, and again, I don't have the answer to that, right? Because everything is a little bit different, whether it's some automated, website out there that applies to jobs for you, to some interesting channel for marketing yourself. I don't know. Like, there's so many different things you can chase out there. But I think being focused, sort of realistic about the time horizon, being iterative about it, and really looking for signal, like if it's working or not. Taking sort of that mentality. I wouldn't say bullet to any of this stuff. It really isn't. I mean, part of my goal here is to give you the recruiter perspective, because I think a lot of times people work with recruiters, and the recruiters are a lot of times just kind of a black box. They don't really know what's going on. They don't really know the mentality. They don't know. They have limited in terms of what the recruiter's dealing with. And so I hope to shed some light on that again, at the minimum, to help you sort of manage even just your expectations in terms of working with a recruiter or a hiring manager. So by proxy, I'm kind of representing a little bit the hiring manager too, because I work very closely with hiring managers, and I have a sense, I have a strong sense of their mentality, and a lot of times I'm representing them, right? Yeah, I hope that helps, Monica. Hi, Lubna, if I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Hi, you are. Thanks for doing this. I just had a
Sure.
follow-up. You said that the hiring manager mentality. I know that they're not all the same though, right? They're not all cookie cutter. There can be challenging hiring managers. There can
Yeah.
be super easygoing hiring managers. Is it
I've worked with them
fair?
all.
Yes, I bet you've seen them all. I guess my question is, can I enlist my recruiter to be my advocate to better understand the hiring manager's mentality going into the interviews?
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. You have to size up
And
your
how do
recruiter.
I do that?
Yeah, that's a great
Because
question. That's a really good
rec-
question, because a lot of times people look at recruiters as just the gatekeeper. Oh, I just got to get around this person. I just got to, just get a thumbs up and then off I move on. The recruiter, depending, right? I'm speaking generalities here. Usually the recruiter is involved in sort of shepherding the candidate across the entire process, right? So they have sort of typically they're shepherding the candidate across the process. If anyone's sort of a point contact, it's the hiring manager and the interviewers, right? It's the recruiter that's sort of seeing you through the entire process. So they're not just a gatekeeper. Typically, they're not just a gatekeeper that you can just get around. So at best, you can, as you say, sort of build a relationship to turn them not just into some gatekeeper, but into an advocate on your behalf, right? And as an advocate, they can give you insights that they might not give other candidates. And how do you do that? So for me, I'm speaking for myself, right? The people that, I'll give you an example. I don't think she's on this call right now. I'm working with a candidate right now. Actually, it's very stark contrast. Two candidates that I'm working with right now. And one is super engaging in terms of any opportunity that I won't even give the gender, any opportunity they have to engage with me, like meaningfully, like they take advantage of it. I'll give you an example. Sometimes I don't have time to give somebody a call. A lot of times I like to do that because I like to, even if I'm just pushing a little bit of information, if I give somebody a call, it gives me a lot of signal, right? Will they pick up their call? Will they engage with me in a conversation? Are they in a hurry? There's all kinds of different signals I get, even just for a little call, giving them even just a brief update. And sometimes I push that through a phone call. Sometimes I push it through a text message. So I can tell when somebody is engaging, and the people that are more engaging, what I mean by engaging is that it's like, okay, if I push some information to them, hey, actually the hiring manager or the team is still evaluating your candidacy or whatever. They're not going to get back to you this week. It'll be early next week. Okay. Right. So that's pushing a little bit of information. The one candidate, in contrast, they would just say, okay, great, thanks. Right. In text. So it's a bit of a missed opportunity, right? Because at that point they have my attention. Right. So in contrast, the other person replies back, and I could feel you could feel the warmth and the energy in the text. And it's not over long or anything. You don't want to do that. But it's like, oh, great, Eric, thanks. I really appreciate it. And then they might ask a question, right? Or they might solicit. It's an opportunity to solicit more information, or at least build rapport with me, right? And so that goes a long way for me. I can't say that applies to all candidates or all recruiters, but the folks that are engaging, that are interested in building rapport, that will pay dividends throughout the process. So I'd recommend you start doing that from the beginning, from the very, even the very first, every touch point, right? A touch point, it can be something as simple as an email, right? Or a text message. But every touch point you have with that person is an opportunity, especially if you have their attention, like in a text, right? You get their text, chances are that there's a high probability they'll respond quickly if you text them right back. It's like, hey, we'll get you feedback early next week. Chances are they're still on their phone when they're saying that. So if you respond back relatively quickly, you have their attention, right? So just going back to your question, like you can turn your recruiter into an advocate on your behalf, and then your recruiter starts rooting for you because there's like a personal connection, there's kind of a rapport. Obviously, you have to have there's just a minimal threshold of skills and experience, right? Like you're not going to get So, but all things being equal, if you're equal to that next candidate, but you're warmer, you're more engaging, it really goes a long way. Like people are people, right? Like people want to work with people that they feel comfortable with, that there's some sort of rapport or chemistry, right? Or they're just likable, right? People want to work with those kinds of people. And I'm not saying like be fake or anything. Kind of be yourself, but let the energy come through. And I think that goes a long way for me in terms of building rapport. And just to add to that, so once you start building that rapport, a lot of times, I won't say a lot of times, for me, I find myself sometimes sharing things I shouldn't, right? To keep things equal. Ideally, you're keeping everything sort of normalized So each candidate has the same insight into the process, into the people, and blah, blah, blah. That's not the reality though, right? Because a lot of times my conversations or interviews, they become conversational, right? And especially if you find a recruiter that tends to be more conversational, you can get information out of that person, right? So, and it goes both ways. Like I'm very conversational too, so I can get information out of the candidate, right? And I share stuff with the candidates, and it's not all normalized, right? I might share more with one candidate versus another because of the rapport that we have, and because I'm building trust with, candidate A, for example. And I want to learn more about them kind of on a personal level, because the personal side, it does make a difference, especially, I mean, again, not for all clients, not for all hiring managers, but for a lot of the hiring managers and a lot of the clients that I've worked with, particularly earlier stage, where the next hire, it can change the overarching culture of the group, because it's just the team is so small, 15, 20, 30 people, right? So anyway.
Does the hiring manager ever ask you in the debrief, hey, what do you think about this candidate? I'm torn between candidate A and candidate B.
Yeah. Yes. So they, especially the astute hiring managers, they do value the insight of the recruiter, especially if the recruiter is more senior, right? Recruiters come in all shapes and sizes, right? Like the bar for becoming a recruiter is pretty low. Let me tell you. I mean, it's changing, right? But the bar for being a recruiter, especially like, maybe 10 years ago, 5 years ago, it's pretty low. If you have an internet connection and phone, like you can kind of be a recruiter, right? So you have to size up your recruiter. Like they come in all shapes and sizes and flavors and whatnot. If a recruiter's been in the business for a while, chances are they probably have line of sight to the hiring manager. And if they have line of sight to the hiring manager and they've been around for a while, chances are the hiring manager would be asking that question of the recruiter. What do you think? What do you think of this person? Well, what do you think about their experience compared to this other candidate? And so yeah, again, going back to the recruiter becoming an advocate on your behalf. That's a question you can ask. Like how long you've been working with this client, assuming they're a third-party recruiter. Some recruiters are internal, so it's not a client. I mean, they might be an internal client, so to speak, but how long you've been working with this hiring manager? You can ask that question. What do you think the biggest challenges this hiring manager is looking to solve with this hire? Because sometimes it could just be like they're just looking to fill the position. They don't really care. They really don't, especially at a big company. Oh yeah, I see. Yeah.
Do you go by raising our hands and then you call on people when they raise their hands, or no?
No, I'm not that formal.
You don't do that. Oh,
I mean, we had there's some instances we had like 30 or 40 people, and we had to like control it, but it's fine.
can I ask a question? Okay. If a lot of job seekers are using AI, and you can often tell when copy was created by AI, do recruiters and employers dismiss when they can tell it's AI, or do they just accept that pretty much it's standard to use AI, and so they just like go ahead and evaluate it the same?
I guess it depends on what they're doing with the AI, right? And just maybe how transparent they are. So a lot of companies that we're working with are AI forward companies. So they value folks that are leveraging AI in an intelligent way, right? And there is intelligent use of AI, and there's less intelligent use of AI, right? But I'll give you an example. Like so one of the clients I'm working with, they have a it's not a typical like a 60-90 day presentation, and it's almost the expectation is that you should be using AI, right? But not that you use it blindly, or you don't review the output and provide your own sort of nuance or corrections or whatnot. But I mean, I guess I would caution you of just, you using any output and just kind of using it to spit out, or just using it as is, and not applying any sort of human in the loop sort of thing. Yeah. Is that your question, Regina? Yeah.
Yes, that was it. Thank you.
Yeah.
I love that question, by the way. Yeah, I have kind of like, I'm a little bit embarrassed. I don't know if it's a dirty question kind of thing, but you let me know what you think, because it's a sensitive thing for me, like the social aspect of, networking and getting into an interview process and whatnot. Something unusual recently happened to me, which was that a recruiter reached out to me for a position, and then suddenly they told me that other candidates were moving forward, and then like at more or less the same time, it was another recruiter for the same position reaching out to me. So I'm not sure if I should go with the first recruiter and just like await for the process, or just to the second recruiter and say, hey, I just got this happened, but should we keep pushing forward if you want to go with this? So it seems like I'm in the middle
Yeah.
ground. Like, depends if it's useful to the hiring manager. I don't know. It feels kind of weird position.
Yeah, that's a good question. These two recruiters, are they internal to the same company? Are they third-party
I would
recruiters?
understand that they're both no,
They're both internal to the same company.
no, the opposite, external.
They're both
outside.
internal to an external third-party company.
No, I don't know if they're in the same third party, but they're outside of the original company.
Oh, okay, got it. Okay, got it. That's where you kind of have to size up the recruiter and maybe the firm that they're working with, right? And as much as recruiters vary, so do the recruiting firms that they work with, right? There's large international recruiting firms. There's one-person boutique recruiting firms, right, and everything in between. Typically, and then obviously clients are all over the place too, right, in terms of that spectrum. So one of the things I would ask, and I'm just going to rattle off some questions here. One of the things I would ask is try to find out like if this search is a contingent search versus a retained search. So contingent searches are where external third parties are turned to by the client to largely generate top of the funnel pipeline, right? And because it's contingent, these recruiting firms or recruiters, they don't get paid unless or until the hire is made. So they're just running around largely, in its worst form, it degrades into just running around, scooping up resumes and throwing them over to the client. And so, in its darkest form, that's what it turns into. At its best form, the firms are reputable, they're credible, they've been working with the given client for some time, and there's some trust there, and they're not going to jeopardize the long-term trust by throwing crap over, right? So part of it is you have to get a sense or a feel for, is this particular firm or recruiter, have they been around with this particular client or hiring manager for some time? And you can start to stack rank. Obviously, the one that has more credibility, more longevity with a given client or a hiring manager, that's probably the recruiter you want to align yourself with. If it's a fly-by-night recruiting firm or recruiter, if it's an early, recruiter that's, just getting into recruiting, like early in their career, perhaps, they might not even have line of sight to the hiring manager, right? Because these recruiting firms they vary.
Yeah, I have like a follow-up here, which is that we're going to call them the first recruiter A, and kind of lowballed me because I gave them, like, they asked for the salary range before we even got into the first meeting. I have a couple of references, and basically they told me, okay, I can do like a little lower than what you're saying. And then when the recruiter B sent me like the job description, it already had the salary range, which the recruiter A was at the lowest range. So just from the get-go, it seems that recruiter B is more like serious, outputting all the information. But this is just like an added note to give transparency to my question. But then secondly, does this reflect back onto the hiring manager in a way that says, hey, this person got captured twice, maybe he has something to bring to the table? Or does that not affect at all? Because there's one relationship with the recruiters, and then there's others to the, let's say, hiring manager. So I want to know if it makes sense in both scenarios.
Just a few questions in there that let me see if I can unpack it. So one is, if it's a contingency search, chances are there may be multiple agencies working on it, and it becomes a race condition, right? Where people are just trying to find, they might do one phone call with you really quick just to make sure you're a living human being, and then they'll shoot you over to the hiring manager, or there might even be layers, right? So I guess your question has to do with how do you determine which recruiter might represent you, right? And what are some of the signals there? So somebody sort of lowballing or putting you at sort of the lower end. I mean, I don't know how much leverage that really buys you as a recruiter. I mean, so the thought might be like, oh, I can get Benji for, at the lower end. And that might, the recruiter might think, oh, that might give me an advantage, right? It really depends. But if they already have a published budget for the range, the hiring manager just wants to find the best person within that range. They don't even care if it's like whatever, 150 to 180 or whatever. They're not looking to be, oh, I need to find somebody at 150, or I'm going to prioritize somebody at 150.
Exactly.
Most hiring managers don't think like that. I mean, the budget's allocated. I mean, think about it yourself. If you're given 150 to 180 to find somebody for your team, you just want to find the best person, right? So because somebody is coming in lower, again, that's typical, right? It depends. Sometimes there's edge cases where hiring managers have, more control over the budget, and they can horse trade, and they might build a team out and allocate budget, within their team. So there's something like that might go on, but for the most part, I mean, if they're not being transparent with you about what they know about the budget, that's kind of questionable too. I mean, if that's something that's published, I mean, I don't know if it's published like on Indeed or some of these job postings, job sites, but yeah, it's kind of questionable. Definitely look up the recruiter, right? I mean, chances are if they're a recruiter, they should be on LinkedIn, and you should be able to find them easily, and try to understand where they're coming from. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Eric. Super useful, super practical right now.
Yeah, for sure. Somebody asked about my tattoo. It's a Japanese style irizumi. It's still a work in progress, but
Wow.
yeah,
Amazing.
yeah, it's a dragon.
That's not mafia related, right?
Sorry?
It's not.
Did you say what?
Mafia?
No.
Not
I still have all my fingers.
Yeah, very cool. I was asked that. Thanks.
Eric, I wanted to ask, what can or should I be doing to help recruiters find me? Or should I be the one finding recruiters?
So I'll tell you this, recruiters are being expected to do more with less. And what that means is that they're managing more acquisitions, more pipeline, more candidates, right? Recruiters are humans, they forget, right? And so to the extent, again, going back to building rapport with your recruiter, the more touch points you have, the more frequency you have with them, the more they will remember you, right? It's just, so take advantage of every opportunity to engage with your recruiter. Again, part of this presumes that, you're kind of moving down the pipeline. But again, just because you're moving down the pipeline doesn't mean you're going to secure the offer, right? You're competing with other people. But as far as recruiters finding you, I mean, obviously you need to be on LinkedIn. You need to have, increasingly recruiters are, like for example, LinkedIn Recruiter they're increasingly adding AI features to LinkedIn Recruiter that will help, parse your profile and your resume. By the way, a quick pro tip here. If you've never applied to a job on LinkedIn, I suggest you do it, because what happens is through LinkedIn Recruiter has, LinkedIn Recruiter is the tool that recruiters use to find you, right? And the way they find you is basically searching your profile. Now, that also includes your resume if you've applied to at least one job. If you've never applied to any job, do it now, because then your resume becomes part of what's searchable via LinkedIn Recruiter.
Like,
and chances are, sorry?
Through the easy apply, or is it just the profile resume or the actual resume?
I think it's any, right? Because as long as you've applied to a job, it gets associated. The resume gets uploaded and it gets associated with your profile. Even though you don't.
If it sends you off site, the resume isn't attached to, like, if you go to Greenhouse. So if you click the apply on LinkedIn and it goes to Greenhouse, it doesn't attach to LinkedIn. Yeah,
that makes sense. If the job posting is configured such that they're just directing you out to the company's website and you're uploading your resume there, I don't think that gets attached to your LinkedIn profile. And when I say attached to your LinkedIn profile, it's not obvious to you but on the back end, as somebody using LinkedIn Recruiter, now that information is now associated with what's queryable through LinkedIn Recruiter.
Great, thank you.
Yeah. So I think it needs, I guess, easy apply. It would need to be through easy applies. Yeah.
Is there any other way to get our resume uploaded to LinkedIn besides applying to jobs?
Not that I know of. That was the one that was made obvious to me, that, oh my gosh, like there's probably people out there that are not applying. Maybe they're applying through like Indeed or whatever, but maybe they've never done it through LinkedIn, or maybe they just haven't been in the job search long enough yet to be like, oh, that they found a job posting that they want to apply to through LinkedIn. But, I would suggest you do it if you haven't done it already. And as far as the algorithm for, maybe I'll look this up, or I'll ask the account manager, because I think the algorithm is such that it just it associates the latest resume. So if you applied to a job on LinkedIn, 2 years ago, it's probably just going to have the most current that you applied to. So if you apply again to another job today through Easy Apply, I believe that it'll update what it knows about you via your most current resume application.
Okay,
I've just
thanks.
sent a URL where if you click it, it shows you if you have sent any resumes before, or you can upload it right there. Like if you are already logged in to LinkedIn and you click the link that I've sent, you should be able to upload that information.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, that's awesome.
You have like a CTA button that says upload resume. It's very explicit there.
Sorry, give me 1 second. The dog wants to go out.
Love the dog.
Yeah, looks very chill.
Yeah. Well, these are great questions. I really appreciate it. Sometimes I come on and the questions are really like super basic. By the way, we just transitioned this to Google Meet. And my assistant kind of takes these and puts them onto YouTube. So there's like a whole, and now I think there's AI in YouTube, so you can query videos or maybe you can query the whole channel. I don't know, but that might be a way to kind of mine some of the conversations we've had over the past year. And not to suggest you guys don't show up anymore, because I do appreciate the questions and the human interaction.
Eric, are you also uploading a transcript with them?
Well, whatever the video gets uploaded, I think YouTube does its own.
Okay, yeah, because that's searchable now. You can, when you search for something, that'll show up.
For some reason, I feel like, let's see, there was a question about AI, and then I started talking about LinkedIn. LinkedIn is applying more AI features to allow recruiters to find profiles and resumes and candidates with less effort, right? And so in terms of being more findable or searchable through LinkedIn, that again, applying through Easy Apply is something that you should consider doing if you haven't already. And there's a lot of just principled stuff as far as like having a focus. We talked about this last time. I think Benji was on, but having a focus, but also sort of balancing that with being a generalist versus a specialist. And you guys have to do your own research, but some of the trends that we've been seeing is that, especially in earlier stage companies that are more AI forward, they're valuing people that are more generalists, because the thought is that with AI, you don't need to be super deep in any given one given area. Now that profile maybe changes a little bit with larger, more established companies, but it feels like that could be a trend that we're seeing.
Eric, I need to jump, but I want to say thank you. This is awesome. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Benji. It's good seeing you.
Same.
Any other questions, you guys?
I have one, if you don't mind. And thank you for doing this. This is really great. Sure. So the question that I have is, how can we help recruiters help us, right? What is it we can do besides being engaging in some of the things that you've talked about, but what is it that we can do to help them help us?
So one of the things that I do as a recruiter, and now I'm increasingly doing it with AI, is when I do an interview, most of my interviews are via Zoom or Google Meet. All of it gets recorded and transcribed, and through those transcriptions, I tease out what I'm looking for, so I can make a case and present the candidate, right? You can preempt that, because I wouldn't say that all recruiters are doing this yet, but if you can preempt that by helping to make a case for your recruiter, and what I mean is actually a written case, right? You take the job description, you take what you know about the company, you take whatever Perplexity research you've done, or research that Perplexity's done on the company, the industry, the trends, the role, whatever, and you feed that context into. And then you couple that with your resume and maybe even the interview that you might have done with that person. And then now you have it spit out a sort of a case for your candidacy, right? What you bring to the table that is solid, but then also some of the stuff that might be more of a unique to you, right? It's one thing to have a bunch of check marks on, sort of the job description, and that's great. But recruiters are also looking for something that makes you maybe a little bit unique. It also helps recruiters remember you, right? So sometimes, like I talk with candidates about, I don't know, whatever sports they've played, right? And there's people that I've met that have been like Olympic athletes and things like that. And it's like, oh, that's really unique, right? It helps the recruit. It might not be completely relevant. It might not be even remotely relevant to the job, but it's something that helps the recruiter remember you, right? Sorry, Tracy, I feel like I'm rambling.
No, that's great. No, thank you.
Yeah. So yeah, make a case for the recruiter, and that could even be a follow-up email to the recruiter saying, this is my understanding of the whatever the top 3 challenges that you or the hiring manager is looking to solve. And here's how I've solved it in the past. That's more concrete than here's how I plan to solve it, right? And recruiters look for concrete. They look for concrete, right? Somebody that's done it before versus somebody that's imagining, oh, this is how I would do it. So if you can tie your actual concrete experience, it doesn't have to be exactly the same, right? But if there's enough, 75% overlap, that's great. It's concrete. It might not be exactly what we're doing here in this new position or this new company or role, but Tracy's done something very similar, right? And so if you can articulate that easily for the recruiter and they can see that, and they might even just pass it off to the hiring manager, and you're taking away something that they have to do. And a lot of that was done manually for a long time. And now, recruiters can do this with AI. So that'd probably be the biggest recommendation. There's other recommendations I could probably think of, but for now, that would be it, Because recruiters are looking for something. If you start doing their job for them a little bit and make it a little easier to get to what they're looking for, to make a case for your candidacy, yeah, you can help them write the story.
Good to know. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. I appreciate you guys for the thoughtful, engaging questions. It makes it interesting for me. So yeah, I'll be doing this every week. So, tell a friend if you found it useful. All right. Have a great weekend. We'll see you guys soon.
Thank you.
Thank you
Bye-bye.
again. Have a good one. Bye.
Bye-bye.